Hello everyone and welcome back to another wintry reading vlog. It is snowing once again. I have seen so much snow this winter. I haven't seen as much snow in quite some time and it doesn't look like it's about to stop. I'm just looking outside right now because you're sitting on a windowsill. And I thought it's a good start to just go back into a reading vlog to help myself a little accountable about, how quickly I read certain books and how much I read, because this year I really want to focus more on reading instead of doom scrolling, and I feel like recording myself while reading is, well, a good step into the right direction. I have already come up with some books that I do want to read within these past few days, or more or less weeks rather, because I know that I will not finish all of these books within just a couple of days. I wish I could. I wish I would be a much faster reader, but I'm not. I'm kind of a slow reader, which is fine, It's also a skill to train, I think. So without further ado, let's get into the books that I am keen on reading in the next couple of weeks. With a disclaimer, I'm a mood reader, so maybe I will not get to these books regardless, but I really hope I will, because right now I'm very much in the mood for all of the books that I have decided to read. So yes, like I said, without further ado, let's get into the books. First, I want to finish the book that I am currently reading, which is on my Kindle, sadly, so I cannot show you something pretty, but I will pop up the cover here, because on my old Kindle I just cannot show you the cover. The book that I'm reading currently on my Kindle is the second book in the Emily Wilde's trilogy, I think, which is Emily Wilde's Map to the Otherlands. I am about 270 pages in and I'm pretty sure that I could finish this today. I'm very eager. In this second installment we follow Emily once again and obviously Wendell, the two main characters, but this time they are accompanied by multiple other side characters. I also hope to finish the third installment of the Emily Wilde trilogy or series within this vlog, and I think it is a trilogy. I think this will be then the conclusion of the series, the trilogy, which I hope to manage this month, because at the beginning of the year I've told myself to finish series more quicker, basically without the big gap in between, so I do still know who is who and what has happened without being too confused. On my shelves behind me there are so many books from years ago, some series that I have started that I have still not finished, but I am still eager to finish. But to continue them or to finish them, I think I have to read the other books, like the previous books, again to refresh my memory, and I don't want this to happen again and again and again. So I'm really trying this year to read series a little bit quicker, if you understand what I mean. So yes, I am hoping that I will get to the third installment this month too. It also depends a little on how I will like the second one, because I'm a mood reader, and if I'm kind of disappointed by how the second book finishes, I don't see myself wanting to continue without a break. But we shall see. Either way, in between of those two books, I do want to switch it up a little, so I'm not getting too tired of fantasy. I've already lent out from the library the second installment of the Beartown series. I have read the first installment of the series around the same time last year, and I wish I would have continued a little bit sooner. I do remember most of the characters, I think, not by name, but I do remember them, because this book is very memorable, and I think the cast as well. It just feels so, how do I describe his writing style? It's just very raw and very real, and I think this helps to stick with you, kinda. And yeah, it's a very emotional read, so I'm curious to see how this continues. I think it's also a trilogy, so I'm aiming to finish also the third book soon-ish. I don't know when, maybe next month, maybe the month after. And yeah, I'm just bracing myself for a very emotional read, but also for a good time, because he's a very, very, very good writer and a very, very good story crafter. As an audiobook, I'm currently listening to Keeper of the Lost Cities. It is a middle grade fantasy, urban fantasy-ish series. I'm not far enough in yet to tell you what I really think about this audiobook or like this book series yet. so I will keep you posted or like wrap it up at the end. It's also kind of hard for me to rate books that are clearly for a much younger audience, so I will maybe refrain from giving it stars. It's a soft enough book at least to listen in between while doing chores or other things, so this I enjoy a lot as well. And then the last book I want to mention in this intro is Anne of Green Gables. I am in the middle of my third, I think, or fourth reread, and I'm just doing this very slowly. I don't know, at page, not even at page 100, let me see. Yeah, I'm at page 56. And I just basically read one chapter a day if I want to, so I'm not even aiming to finish it this month. It will accompany me for quite some time. Maybe I do finish it, I don't know, we shall see. But yeah, those were all the books that I am aiming to read, or that I am currently reading, or that I will be reading in the near future. And without further ado, let's get right back into reading. It's been a while since my last update. I was sick, so my voice is still a little wonky, and I think my nose is getting stuffed again actually, so I still might not sound the best, but I'm trying. But I do have a lot of updates to share. Also, I hope the setting is okay, the setup, because it's so bright. I did not expect this. The snow just makes everything so bright with the sun. It wasn't supposed to be this sunny today. And also the heating pumps are still on, so if you hear like noises in the background, my apologies. Either way, let's get to the updates. I have finished Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands like a week ago or so, and I must say that my opinion from earlier in the introduction has not really changed much. Don't get me wrong, I still really liked it. I liked the vibe, I liked Emily, I liked Bumblebee, I loved both of them actually. I also liked most of the side characters, but my opinion about them still has also not changed. They feel, yeah, really just like side characters in a way. I mean, they are, but you know what I mean. They are not like fully fleshed out. I still feel like her niece was she was very sweet. I liked her, but she was just that kind of. I mean, she was also curious and stuff and had a little bit of a backbone, but she could have been more, I think. And I felt this way with most of the characters, honestly. And this is kind of a shame because I like the thought of them not really being alone, of having a different set of characters that accompany them completely on the tour, not just, you know, meeting some new people, but like actually people from, you know, the university, and getting different angles on, you know, what Emily is doing, basically what all these scholars are doing. But yeah, it fell flat and that was disappointing. But regardless, I still like the idea a lot. I also still like the imagery a lot. I still like the prose a lot, even though maybe it's just me, but I did not feel like it was as whimsically written as the first one. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, I'm not complaining about this. I still enjoyed it. And about the story. It started with a bang. I liked how it started. It started very fast-paced and very interesting, and then the rest was also kind of interesting as the premise was good, but the execution lacked, in my opinion. And with that, I basically mean that everything that was introduced got kind of quickly resolved. Mind you, it's also like a book with 300, almost 400 pages, I think. I'm not entirely sure anymore. Have not downloaded it anymore on my Kindle. I always, you know, get rid of the downloads when I'm done, but it's a book between 300 and 400 pages. So obviously there have to be resolutions to things that are introduced, but I personally would have liked if they would have simmered a little bit more with the things that were going on. It felt more like the ending part of the first installment of the series, because there's something happens that gets resolved within like 50 pages or so, and I did not like that. And this is how I felt with most things within this book. We also get introduced to this plot with 2 new characters. That was partially the reason for why they go to this place, but also partially, you know, other things happened. Obviously things are different than they turned out to be or how they seemed to be. And one of these characters was, or like both characters actually, they were built up throughout the novel, and I liked that. But when their problem was solved, it was quickly over. And this kind of bothered me too. I know I sound so cryptic, but I'm trying to give an overview without spoiling too much, which is, you know, a second book in a trilogy. But I think what I'm trying to say is that things were half cooked. It felt like, you know, it was a typical second volume syndrome. I'm not even sure if it's called this way, but when the second volume is more like a filler for the first and the third one, because in the third one we have the finale, which is possibly more interesting, and obviously the first one has like all this build up and stuff. So like the second one is, you know, oftentimes a little weak, and I feel like this was the case for me at least. But with that being said, I also had like favorite parts and stuff. I really still enjoyed Emily and Bumblebee together, as I've said before. I really liked how their relationship evolved. I liked how close they got. I liked how their romance was so low-key, kind of, but also kind of intense. Like, it's very refreshing to read. It was not like the standard type of romance, and I really still enjoy that a lot. And this relationship obviously had some sort of a peak, and they developed a little more together. And also I liked Bumblebee's story still. I like Emily's part in Bumblebee's storyline, and I'm very curious to see what happens in the next one, because obviously the entire mystery about Bumblebee was already introduced in volume 1, and so we basically know what they're aiming toward. And I'm very curious to see if the outcome that these 2 characters want to have from this journey turns out to be true or not, or like come into fruition. Yeah, with that, guess what I have gotten my little grabby hands on? The third book is already in my possession. I have lent this from the library. It was available, so I was like, no, I didn't think I would get my hands on this so quickly, so I just got it without much waiting time, which is great. I will get to this in this month though. You know, it's a February reading vlog, I have decided now, kind of, and I think I can still read this. But enough of Emily for now, because right now I am reading, as you know, announced, Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. It's the second book in the Beartown trilogy, and I am pretty far. I'm almost done. What can I say? I can't say a lot, honestly. Or rather, I don't really know what to say. It's, you know, once again a second volume, but that doesn't mean I cannot at least give my thoughts without spoiling you. But I honestly, I'm not sure what to say, because I'm not really enjoying it so much. I think it's rather boring. And this is sad, kind of, because I really enjoyed Beartown. And I had such high hopes when I went into this video, and I think maybe that's also the issue. I think the same applies also to the second volume in the Emily Wilde trilogy, because I had such high hopes because the first one was so great. Beartown is a small town in Sweden, and they have hockey as their center thing, kind of. Everything in this town evolves around hockey, and they are so proud of this team and everything, you know, every family kind of has some sort of ties within hockey, and we follow this set of characters. It's like 10 characters or something, I'm not sure right now. And everyone has obviously their own little story, and some are obviously more inclined to, you know, hockey, some don't really care, whatever. But we do get these different point of views within the story and how they evolve. And in the first volume, something really, really bad happened, and the hockey team was involved. So now in the second volume we see kind of the aftermath of this, and how this town tries to recover. And I like the thought, you know, of something happening, and even though this book could have been a standalone, honestly, I really like the thought of going back there, because obviously there are more stories to be told within this town. But right now I don't see the point. I think it could have been a standalone. I honestly also don't know, like, it's a trilogy, so there will be another book that I can read. I mean, there is already another book out that I will be reading, possibly. It's not a bad read per se, absolutely not. I'm still enjoying it kind of, but really not as much as I would like to. So I'm kind of hesitant also in picking up the next one. But yeah, we shall see. But either way, Bedtime, or like Us Against You, it's kind of disappointing to me. Like I said, it's kind of boring. We still follow all these characters, and I like that. I like character-driven stories a lot. I like seeing their day-to-day life, and these parts are also interesting, don't get me wrong. I think it is a repetitiveness of it all, kind of, which is so hard to explain without proper, like, examples. But I feel like the same themes are over and over and over described and underlined, and at first I didn't mind it. It's like making a point, making an issue of one of these characters and explaining something about this character, and then having this entire discussion about like a theme within this character's point of view, kind of. Like, family is, you know, thicker than butter or something, and then going on and on and on and on and on about this. And at first I felt like, yeah, that's great, because it's like, you know, he's underlining the important things, but it's getting too much. It's really getting too much, and I'm not enjoying this. I'm just gonna try and finish this, and not today, I think. I have other things to do. We are gonna go out and stuff, but yeah, I think I will update you guys once I'm done again, and maybe also when I have actually started to read this one a little bit. I feel like I have said this the last time I've updated you guys, but it has been a while. It is not even February anymore, even though I planned on having this monthly vlog kind of situation. It is spring now, or like almost. It's March. And it took me way too long to finish the last book that I wanted to film for this video. And I think I could have just cut it short and just made a little wrap up about the books that I have already read, but I did not, because I'm stubborn and I wanted to finish what I have started. So here we are, a little later than intended, but I guess, yeah, from winter we just, you know, moved over to spring. And now I just want to give a quick update about all the books that I have been reading in the past few weeks. So the first book that I have read, and I have already gone into detail about this book was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, and I have decided to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. The reason being was still everything that I have said previously, and even after sitting with it a little while and also finishing, spoiler, the third one, my mind has not changed. So 3 out of 5 stars for Emily Wilde's second installment. I think I was reading the next one, the second book in this video, while I was filming last time, which was Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. And what can I say? It is also 3 out of 5 stars, and all the points I have mentioned before still applied in the end. I did not enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first installment, which was, I think, a 5-star for me, or even close to a 5-star, just like it was with the first book of the Emily Wilde series, which is a shame. And I think it's really because I've had such high expectations going into these books, so this opinion has also not changed. In the end, it was, from what I remember, really still just rinse and repeat, and I also don't think anything that has happened by the end had really an impact on me. I also did not like this false foreshadowing that kept happening in Us Against You, which distracted me a little from the main story. What I mean with that is that, for example, something has happened that would have been a major thing in the book, but then the scene shifted and something else was happening with another character more or less at the same time, and then we shifted back to this very intense scene, just to understand that what we thought was happening and what was laid out to us was in fact not really happening, and it was just something else. And I'm fine with that when it happens here and there, because, you know, it is still a shock factor, kind of. But at some point you just don't care anymore, I feel like. So I don't really, I didn't really care. It was predictable, kind of, and I was constantly just rolling my eyes at, after a while, because I knew this dramatic situation would be resolved, or is not really what I was thinking it would be, which is a shame, honestly. In the first book I really liked it still, but it was just so repetitive in the second installment. So yeah, like I said, 3 out of 5 stars. I still liked his writing, I still liked the story, I still like the characters, but it was lacking for me personally, and right now I'm not sure if I will pick up the third one actually, because I was really bored, and maybe I will pick it up only in the next year, even though I want to finish series close by, but I really need a distance from the series because it was just not so entertaining as I hoped it would be. And I think if I would go into this book now with this mindset, I would be, disappointed again. So I will not do that. And speaking of disappointments, I did in fact finish Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, and what can I say? It was a 2 out of 5 stars for me, which I did not expect, and I also am sad about that because I really cared for the characters. Like, I still really like the characters, and I still really like the romance, but it had a lot of things in it that I just genuinely dislike about books in the fantasy genre, or like when there is romance at play. I will get to this in detail a little bit more later because it's more spoilery, but right now about this book, it was a conclusion of the trilogy. Woohoo, what a surprise. But it did conclude this overarching plot about Bumblebee's history and, what Bumblebee really is. And what I did like is that we directly started with this. There was no long introduction, but it was disappointing in the sense that everything was just so convenient. There was no proper build-up, and I also feel like everything that has happened was a little bit weird. We also get to see more of the side characters that have appeared previously, and those from the first volume, they appeared and they're still very sweet, and I still really liked seeing them. But the other 2 characters that I already didn't really, I liked them, but I already kind of questioned their purpose. They really felt like devices put into the story for, the sake of the main characters and to continue the plot. And I did not like that. And they appeared again, and my opinion about them has not changed. And yeah, I was just really bored. I tried to read it in February, but I at some point realized that I was actually starting to skim paragraphs, and I only do that when I'm really, really bored and not feeling it. And when I realized that, I put the book down because I don't want to skim this. I like the writing, I like the story, and I don't want to remember the book like that. So I didn't pick it up. Did not even read much in between because I was kind of in a slump. I think I was really disappointed, but I also had other things to do. I was like pottery painting stuff kept happening. Then we started a new D&D campaign and I had to make a new character and whatever. Yeah, side quests, as I will call them. But I picked it up again and it was like halfway through, but it still felt like such a drag when I actually tried to read it that I kind of wish I would have soft DNF'd it. But the thing is also that this is from a library, so the next time I would have felt like picking this up again, I'd have to get into queue to wait for this book to be available again, and I really didn't want that because I'm a mood reader too. And when I want to have a book, I want to kind of have it now, otherwise it goes away, the feeling of, you know, wanting to read it. That's why also, you know, I'm still trying to adjust a little to the library because oftentimes the book is just not available that I just run to read in a moment, which is how it is. It's just an issue for me as a mood reader. So I really had to force myself through this book, and I think that's a shame. Maybe it was really a wrong time situation. So it is, like I said, a 2 out of 5 stars, even though I still like the writing and I still like the main character. And I also like the whimsiness about the fairy realm, and I'm always very happy to read about a realm that is just very weird and nonsensical and so different. That's why I love fairy stuff, actually. Like proper fairy stuff. I'm not talking about Akatar, for example, because this is not typical fairy stuff for me anymore. It's more like elves, but I'm not getting into that now. That's maybe a thing for a different video. And I like Akatar, just don't get me wrong here. But also about the spoiler that I wanted to talk about. So here, big spoiler warning about, you know, big details in this book. There was this trope that I really dislike, which is the male love interest dying just to be resurrected very shortly after. I have read this trope so many times in these past few months that it's just so boring and it had no impact on me. And I love Bumblebee. I love him so much. Really, it's like my type of character. He's so entertaining. He's so, you know, so imperfectly perfect, basically. But this trope, it just ruins the fun for me. I knew he was not dead. I knew it. It also happened like 100 pages before the book was over. He could not have been dead. And he wasn't, and he is not, and they live happily ever after, kinda, and I just don't like that. It has no tension for me anymore because it keeps happening in every romantasy book that I've been picking up, and I think that's super boring. And spoiler ending by now here. So basically, if you've skipped until now, what I liked about the book series, or like how the series was set up, was that it was so different from everything else that I have been reading, because the focus was not the romance, the focus was not something epic, it was, you know, this cozy fantasy, and it really proved to me that I do like cozy fantasy. But I think, which is a weird thing to say because it's a trilogy and, you know, obviously I didn't write it, I didn't go into this writing the story with this idea in my mind. But for me as a reader, it felt like the story derailed a little bit, which also makes the titles of these books, the undertitles, apart from Emily Wilde, so redundant to me. The first volume still made sense, but the rest is a little... It's hard to explain, but it's not... She's not researching per se anymore. She does this too, of course, on the sides, but it's not the focus anymore. And I think what I hoped when I got into this series, or like into the first book, was that this would continue, kind of. Emily would find another subject or another topic, and that we would just see more and more of this, kind of. It's hard to explain, but I hoped it would just be something different and not, you know, our everyday romantasy, which to me feels currently like everything is the same. And I'm not saying that Emily is the same as these romantasy books. It's not. It just felt a little similar to me by the end, which is a shame. But anyway, I will move on. I'm happy I had this experience. I'm happy I finished a series because, you know, finishing a series always feels nice, to me at least. The next book that I actually did finish in this month was my audiobook, The Keeper of the Lost Cities, which is this middle grade fantasy novel, urban fantasy, might I add, which I still don't know how to rate. I'm not sure if I rated it when I signed it off on Goodreads, and I will refrain right now from rating it with any stars because I'm not a middle grade student, but I enjoyed my time. I still feel like the similarities to Harry Potter were a little too much, which is not that I mean it was at a magical boarding school, but some characters felt too similar trade-wise and, you know, what they do as an occupation to, you know, some characters in the Harry Potter series, which might be a coincidence, which might also just be in my head kind of, because, you know, magical school and I have grown up with this. So my first thought is always Harry Potter when I read about something like this, which is not good. I should just see a new piece of media as what it is. But yeah, the similarities were a little too much for me, but otherwise I liked it. I also still have, I think, the second volume as well on my Kindle. Well, either way, I will listen to it at some point too. It has a female main character. It has, you know, all that puberty stuff, kind of, found family, magical stuff, a little bit of drama, a little bit of action, academy stuff. You know, it's a good mix, so I would recommend it still, of course. I will also still continue it. It was entertaining, and I will continue it at some point. And then we continue with my honorary mention of Anne of Green Gables, which I think I announced in the beginning that I will most likely not finish this book in this video. I think I did not even read anything in between anymore. Let me see. I'm at page 72. I don't know where I was when I started this video a few weeks ago, but I think I did not continue much, which is okay. So yeah, just a quick update on this book to wrap it up properly with everything that I've started and mentioned in the beginning of this video. And with that, I think we've already reached the end of this video. Thank you if you made it this far and that you're bearing with me and the sporadic update when life gets in between reading and filming and everything. Either way, I will see you in another video very soon. Goodbye!